Tonight, a story you'll see only on 13 News. 13 Investigates has learned the Muncie Fire Department is tonight the focus of 3 separate investigations.
And they all involve allegations that firefighters and EMTs were able to cheat on their certification exams.
Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel tonight explains how these investigations could have a dramatic impact on the department, its employees, and everyone who lives in the city of Muncie.
The Muncie Fire Department and its EMS service are under intense scrutiny for an alleged cheating scandal that has rocked the department.
This upsets me greatly, that some individuals could or did possibly cheat, because we have a lot of good people, and by proxy, all of us have to pay for this.
Muncie Fire Chief Robert Meade said it was last month that he first learned of the allegations, claims that some members of his department might be improperly collecting test questions and answers, and then sharing them to help coworkers pass their EMT certification exams. Those exams are required for EMTs and paramedics to be certified to work on an ambulance. Now, the national organization that conducts the exams is getting involved.
I was notified by National Registry of EMTs that they were opening an investigation to several members of our department.
The National Registry confirmed for 13 News that its investigation is now ongoing, and a spokesman said the National Registry takes seriously all accusations of impropriety as it relates to our examinations, and we are working with the appropriate authorities. Those authorities include the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. It has launched 2 separate investigations into the Muncie cheating allegations, one by the Indiana State EMS Office, which confirms it is now investigating the entire Muncie Fire Department because of the allegations. The other investigation is by the Office of the State Fire Marshal.
We have assigned 2 investigators from Homeland Security to look into the allegations of cheating on the test.
State Fire Marshal Steve Jones says his office is involved because the Muncie allegations also involve possible cheating on state firefighter exams. Those exams allow firefighters to get additional certifications that can result in raises and promotions.
There's no shortcuts in becoming a firefighter. There's no shortcuts in becoming a paramedic or an EMT. Integrity is everything. We want people to do the right thing. I hope that that took place here, but if not, there could be a penalty to pay.
Could firefighters and EMTs end up losing their certifications?
They could. They could, and I think this is why it's important, if cheating has taken place, that the fire service and the EMS world understand everything that you do can affect your career.
The state says, depending on the results of its investigations, members of the Muncie Fire Department could have their firefighter or EMT certifications revoked for up to 7 years. The entire department could lose its certification to train firefighters and EMTs. And anyone found to have cheated on their exams could also face fines of up to $500 per incident. If it comes to that, the penalties could cripple a department that provides fire and medical service to more than 65,000 people.
I hope that we're exonerated from this, but if it goes the other way, we'll deal with it as whatever the outcome is.
The Muncie Fire Chief told me if the cheating is confirmed, he's thought about the possible implications for the department, and he said in his words, it's too big to even think about. So what evidence are investigators looking at? 13 Investigates has obtained the same photos and emails and text messages state investigators are now looking at. We've also talked to some members of the fire department who say it's time to speak up. Have you personally seen this cheating happen?
Yes, I have.
Why are you sitting down with me to talk about this?
I know what's going on is wrong. This is life and death that we're talking about. I can't sit back and watch it happen any longer.
You'll hear what members of the Muncie Fire Department say they've witnessed with these certification exams, the surprising documents now at the heart of the investigations, and why state officials say what's happening right now in Muncie should serve as a lesson to fire and EMS departments all over Indiana.
Tonight, one of our state's largest fire departments is under investigation.
13 Investigates just broke news of a possible cheating scandal inside the Muncie Fire Department.
The State Department of Homeland Security confirms tonight it is now investigating allegations that some Muncie firefighters and EMTs were able to cheat on their certification exams.
So now you're going to hear how that alleged cheating took place as investigative reporter Bob Siegel sits down with someone who says they experienced it firsthand.
Why are you sitting down with me to talk about this?
I know what's going on is wrong. I can't sit back and watch it happen any longer.
Firefighters and EMTs within the Muncie Fire Department are speaking out. This month, 13 Investigates talked with several current and former staff members, and they all claim cheating on certification exams has been going on for years. Have you personally seen this cheating happen?
Yes, I have.
This employee agreed to talk on camera. They do not want to be identified for fear of retaliation, but they do want the public to know what's happening.
I really think we're letting down the citizens. This is life and death that we're talking about.
The Muncie Fire Department is certified to teach and train its own firefighters and EMTs. That includes hosting classes at the department's training facility to prepare staff for their certification exams. EMT certification is required to work on Muncie's ambulances. Some members of the department tell 13 News firefighters trying to get their EMT certification get a huge advantage before taking the exam.
We have some higher-ranking leadership on the department who helps teach these classes. They're collecting test questions and distributing these test questions to those younger staff members so they can just go in and take a test and hold the certification.
This insider told us the test questions are harvested by interviewing staff immediately after they take their EMT exams, which take place at off-site locations like this one.
Those students, as soon as they get back from taking their exams, are confronted, asked to remember any questions that they had. They developed a question bank of nearly 500 questions for the EMT, advanced EMT classes. So as soon as our new hires come in, they're able to just memorize those questions, go in and get their certifications.
These are some of those questions and answers. 13 Investigates was shown pages and pages of them that staff say were harvested directly from EMT exams and then texted to Muncie trainees before taking their certification exams. We also got a copy of another text message allegedly sent by a high-ranking member of the Muncie Fire Department who texted out the test questions. The message says, "Do not tell anyone I shared with you. The more you know the material, the better recall you will have afterwards to remember questions." If questions and answers were collected and shared with students prior to their EMT exams, that would be a serious violation of exam rules. Those rules from the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians state candidates are not permitted to disclose or discuss with anyone, including instructors, information about the exam questions or answers seen in your examination, and reconstructing exam items using your memory of your exam or the memory of others is prohibited. The State Department of Homeland Security tells 13 News if those rules were broken, the Muncie Fire Department and some of its staff could have their EMT certifications revoked, which is a big deal, according to the state fire marshal.
Integrity is everything, and that's what we want. And so there will be or could be a consequence to pay if it's found that the allegations are true.
And cheating on EMT exams could have even bigger consequences for the 65,000 people who rely on the Muncie Fire Department for emergency medical service.
If there's people showing up on an ambulance who you're supposed to trust to be able to potentially save your life, and they don't have the skills or training necessary to be able to do so, I would imagine that's pretty terrifying.
Allegations of cheating are not limited to Muncie EMT exams. 13 Investigates has learned firefighter testing, which takes place inside the department's training facility, is also in question. Both 13 News and state investigators have been provided with these photos, which allegedly show test questions photographed directly off computer screens during firefighter certification exams.
The leadership who's hosting these classes will proctor the exams. They're taking pictures of computer screens, and then on down the road, actually showing future students pictures of those tests and the questions. They'll actually walk around the room, and if you notice somebody struggling on a question, whether they ask for it or not, they'll find it on his personal tablet or phone and show that person the answer.
Blatant cheating.
Yes, it's blatant. No studying necessary. They know that they'll be provided the actual test. They know that they can pass it without any issues.
I have no idea of this.
Robert Meade is Muncie's fire chief.
I can't comment because I do not know. I physically have never seen this happen, and it's not been reported to me that it's happening.
The chief says he's been blindsided by the allegations, but some people who work here say the cheating has been happening for years, with few people willing to talk about it, until now.
Are there folks who are trying to keep this secret?
I do believe that they're trying to hide it.
Now that these allegations are out in the open, multiple investigations are underway. The city of Muncie sent a release earlier today saying the alleged misconduct occurred without knowledge or permission of the fire department or the city. The people I've spoken to inside the department claim this has been happening for so long, it should come as a surprise to no one.
We've got new developments following a 13 News investigation about possible cheating inside of the Muncie Fire Department. Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel has learned tonight the State Department of Homeland Security is now taking more action and watching the Muncie Fire Department very closely.
13 investigators revealed the Muncie Fire Department is facing 3 separate investigations. They all involve claims that some firefighters and EMTs were able to cheat on certification exams. The National Registry of EMTs, the state's EMS director, and the state fire marshal all told us they are investigating the allegations.
Integrity is everything, and that's what we want. There's no shortcuts in becoming a firefighter. There's no shortcuts in becoming a paramedic or an EMT.
This is life and death that we're talking about.
Insiders at the Muncie Fire Department told 13 Investigates they've seen cheating firsthand, and they claim it's being conducted by people who are supposed to be monitoring the exams to make sure cheating does not happen.
The leadership who's hosting these classes will proctor the exams. They're taking pictures of computer screens, and then on down the road actually showing future students pictures of those tests and the questions.
Now the State Department of Homeland Security is stepping in to keep a closer eye on firefighter testing offered by the Muncie Fire Department. A Homeland Security spokesman told 13 News additional staff have been rerouted to make sure the exams are proctored and handled properly. We have sent additional staff from the Fire and Public Safety Academy to sit in on those proctors, and there are plans where we've basically taken over oversight on the state certification exams. Homeland Security told me staff from the academy will be in attendance at all exams offered at the Muncie Fire Department until the state's ongoing investigations into alleged cheating are complete. That could take several months as investigators conduct audits, review documents, and interview witnesses. If cheating is confirmed, members of the Muncie Fire Department could lose their certifications to work as firefighters and EMTs. And the state could revoke the entire department's certification to teach classes and offer exams. We'll continue to monitor these investigations very closely.
We've got new information for you tonight about what investigators are calling a widespread cheating scheme inside the Muncie Fire Department.
13 Investigates first exposed the accusation several weeks ago. Firefighters and EMTs encouraged to cheat on their certification exams.
Late this afternoon, our Bob Siegel met with the state's top fire official about the punishment for those EMTs and what this all means for Muncie residents who depend on them.
This spring, allegations of cheating rocked the Muncie Fire Department, and we now know that cheating, first reported by 13 Investigates, will have serious consequences, especially for Captain Troy Delaney, a longtime Muncie firefighter and EMT. 13 Investigates obtained this investigation report from the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. It says this past winter, Delaney coordinated a cheating scheme within the Muncie Fire Department, sending a group text to all 8 students in the department's basic EMT certification class that included test questions and answers to help them pass their national EMT exam. It also says Delaney texted the students after the test to ask which questions and answers were on their exam, claiming that since he had invested in the students, they should invest back in him. The Indiana Department of Homeland Security says Delaney's conduct is fraud and material deception, lewd and immoral conduct, and a violation of state law. As a result, the state EMS director issued an order revoking all of Captain Delaney's EMS certifications for 7 years. It essentially means he cannot be an EMT in the state of Indiana during that time. It's the harshest penalty the state can take against an EMT. And Indiana State Fire Marshal says that discipline was chosen for a reason.
We had never had a case that saw such blatant disregard for giving test answers out for students to cheat. This was way beyond what we've seen in the past.
The state is also taking action against the 8 EMT recruits that got help from Delaney. The state's investigation report says even though the students did not ask to be involved in the cheating scheme, the students still cooperated by not reporting the misconduct and by offering return information to Captain Delaney. Because of their actions, the state has issued a censure to all 8 EMTs, placed them on 2 years of probation, and voided the results of the national EMT exam they passed this winter. While the state did not revoke or suspend their certifications, all 8 of the EMTs must retake their national exam within 90 days and pay a $100 fine.
If those exams are in question, if you're not on your game, people's lives hang in the balance of your decisions.
Gio Henderson has been an EMT for 30 years, and he's now a battalion chief at a New York fire department. He says if cheating is suspected, requiring EMTs to retake their exams is a wise choice. And he also believes leaders in the Muncie Fire Department now need to do some real soul searching.
We absolutely should not be sweeping this under the carpet. We should be looking at this with a very harsh spotlight to say, how did this happen? How can we prevent this from happening? And how can we build that culture where this will never be tolerated again?
All of the discipline comes just weeks after 13 Investigates reported on the systemic cheating scandal that prompted Muncie Fire Department staff to speak up. Have you personally seen this cheating happen?
Yes, I have.
Whistleblowers who spoke on the condition of anonymity provided 13 News with pages and pages of test questions and answers that they say Muncie staff harvested directly from EMT and firefighter certification exams. 13 Investigates also got a copy of a text message allegedly sent along with test questions by Captain Delaney. It read, "Do not tell anyone I shared with you."
I know what's going on is wrong. I can't sit back and watch it happen any longer.
The tips triggered investigations not just by 13 Investigates, but also by the State Department of Homeland Security and the National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians, the organization that develops and administers the national EMT exams. The National Registry takes cheating very seriously. To prove that, the organization just filed this lawsuit in federal court, seeking damages against Captain Delaney and 2 other Muncie EMTs for what it calls a years-long scheme to reveal confidential and proprietary materials before students take their EMT exams. The lawsuit claims the result is an improper advantage on the test for the test takers and endangering the public. The National Registry tells 13 Investigates its investigation is still ongoing. But the organization confirms it, too, has revoked certifications and nullified exam results for several Muncie EMTs. It's not just EMTs who are facing punishment. The state's been investigating allegations that Muncie firefighters also cheated on their certification exams. The state fire marshal says disciplinary recommendations will be released next week. 13 News has reached out to Muncie's fire chief and to Troy Delaney. So far, we've received no response.
Bob, what does this mean for the people in Muncie? Will there be enough EMTs to respond during emergencies?
Well, keep in mind, only one of the EMTs has had his certification revoked. The other 8 facing punishment are just on probation, and technically they can still serve as EMTs while they retake their exams. So that decision by the state is actually a big break for the department. We do not yet know what discipline, if any, the city of Muncie is going to take, but at least for now, it appears that Muncie EMS service is running uninterrupted.
All right, we know Bob Siegel, you'll continue to follow this story for us. Thanks so much.
We will.
Tonight, extremely harsh punishment for a high-ranking member of the Muncie Fire Department. The longtime fire captain has now been stripped of his certifications to be a firefighter. That decision comes following a cheating scandal that was exposed by 13 Investigates. Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel broke this story, and tonight he explains why this scandal is bigger than the Muncie Fire Department thought and why the state of Indiana imposed the harshest penalty possible.
signify by saying aye.
Aye. Tuesday afternoon, this state board voted overwhelmingly to do something very unusual. It permanently revoked all certifications for a longtime firefighter, essentially prohibiting him from serving as a firefighter in the state of Indiana. The penalty is for Captain Troy Delaney, a 19-year veteran of the Muncie Fire Department. He's accused of coordinating an elaborate cheating scheme involving other members of the department. The Indiana Department of Homeland Security and 13 Investigates received anonymous tips that Delaney provided hundreds of test questions and answers to his colleagues before they took their EMS and firefighter certification exams, and then pressured new recruits to provide him with more questions and answers once they took their tests. The state EMS office already revoked Delaney's certifications to be an EMT for at least 7 years. Now, the Firefighting Standards Board also revoked his firefighter certifications for life.
It just helps ensure the integrity of the fire service and EMS service. It's important to do our training the right way.
Why did the board give the most serious punishment possible?
It became evident that this was not a 2023 isolated incident. This went back to 2018.
State investigators told board members that cheating in Muncie has been going on for years, citing evidence they collected dating back as far as 2018, with all that evidence linked back to Delaney. This spring, after 13 Investigates broke news of the cheating, state investigators discovered an entire class of Muncie firefighters had received questions and answers for their upcoming state exam on rope rescues. Listen what happened next.
So before the actual exam took place, IDHS personnel changed up the test and the questions. And this is what's really concerning, is that every single student flunked. So this is very strongly suggests that students were relying on memorizing the questions that were given to them. And he was essentially telling students in text messages that just memorize these questions.
Have you ever seen a case anything like this?
No.
Board member Pedro Caceres says he and other board members took extreme action to protect the public's trust in first responders.
He violated that trust, and that's the foundation to public service. It clearly sends a message that we are not here for ourselves, but for those who we serve, to make a positive difference in the community.
Now, at today's hearing, the Department of Homeland Security told us that Delaney's actions literally risked the lives of Muncie residents and his fellow firefighters. The city of Muncie has been waiting to make a decision on whether to fire Delaney based on what the state board decided today. Captain Delaney hasn't responded to our request for an interview. He has 15 days to appeal the state's decision. 13 Investigates broke news of a cheating scandal inside the Muncie Fire Department. Tonight, the firefighter at the center of that controversy is fighting to save his career, and tonight, for the first time, you're going to hear his side of the story. Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel explains how this longtime fire captain is defending himself and how much taxpayers are paying for him not to work.
Investigators say a cheating scandal that's shaken the Muncie Fire Department centered around one man, 19-year veteran Troy Delaney. This investigation report from the Indiana Department of Homeland Security claims Delaney used his leadership position to repeatedly facilitate cheating on EMT and fire exams from 2018 to 2023, pressuring students to report back to him with their test questions and then sending those questions to other students before they took their exams. Several current and former members of the Muncie Fire Department told 13 Investigates about the scheme. Have you personally seen this cheating happen?
Yes, I have.
After investigations by 13 News and the Department of Homeland Security, this state firefighting board and Indiana's EMT director revoked all of Delaney's professional certifications, meaning he can no longer serve as a firefighter or EMT in Indiana. But Delaney is appealing those revocations, and 13 Investigates has obtained his appeals. They say the state's investigation into the alleged cheating scheme was haphazard, reckless, irresponsible, inconsistent, biased, and founded in preconceived notions of guilt. Delaney also claims at no point in the investigation was I ever permitted to know the specific allegations against me, nor was I permitted to see the so-called evidence. What is Mr. Delaney asking for?
He wants to get back to work.
Chris Jeter is Delaney's attorney.
The whole thing just doesn't feel right, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to get our day in court.
Jeter and his client both say the Department of Homeland Security has not yet provided them any of the evidence that led state regulators to strip Delaney of his certifications. But that evidence was laid out during a long public hearing before the Firefighting Board, a hearing Troy Delaney chose not to attend. State investigators say the evidence includes pages of questions as well as photos and texts that allegedly show the captain distributed test questions and answers. Interviews with students who said they received test materials from the fire captain before their exam, and a text that a student said came directly from Delaney, warning, "Do not tell anyone I shared with you."
Did none of those things happen?
I don't know, because I haven't seen any of that stuff.
But you've had a chance to talk with your client. Does he claim that none of this happened?
He claimed that he prepped his recruits and that he would debrief with them when they came out to make sure that that when he trained the next class of recruits that they were prepared. Did he sit down and say, write down every question that was on this test and the answer so that I can then go give that to the next class so they can cheat? No, that did not happen.
Exactly what did happen will now be up to an administrative law judge to decide, and there's a lot at stake.
It's really a man's life and occupation that's at issue here.
Courtney Enright is an attorney who specializes in administrative law. She says an upcoming administrative appeal hearing will be Delaney's chance to present his evidence.
He's going to have to show that he's more credible, and the information that he has is more credible than what the state has to present.
While Troy Delaney appeals the decision from the Department of Homeland Security, he remains on paid leave, which essentially means Muncie and its taxpayers are paying him not to work.
City records show so far, Delaney has received nearly $22,000 since starting his administrative leave on May 25th. And if the longtime Muncie firefighter wins his appeal, or if he at least remains on the payroll for another 6 months, he can collect his full retirement from the city.
Is there an effort to drag things out at this point until March of 2024 so that he qualifies for his full pension?
No, there's not an effort to drag it out, just an effort to be fully prepared. 19 and a half years serving that community, I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt until the final judgment is rendered.
Indiana Homeland Security tells 13 News it stands behind its investigation and looks forward to presenting its case to an administrative law judge. If Troy Delaney does not win his administrative appeal, his attorney says they'll appeal again by taking the case to court. We'll keep following this case, which probably won't end anytime soon.
Tonight, more questions about that cheating scandal inside of the Muncie Fire Department. The longtime captain accused of coordinating that cheating scheme is tonight raising questions about the investigation. And our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel says it's now not clear whether the Muncie Fire Department investigated serious allegations at all.
State investigators spent months investigating claims that a fire captain inside the Muncie Fire Department helped recruits cheat on their fire and EMT certification exams. Their findings? Captain Troy Delaney initiated and engaged in an exchange of test questions and answers from at least 2018 to 2023, allowing students to pass exams by memorizing the test questions and answers rather than learning the material. Following that investigation, the State Firefighting Board permanently revoked Delaney's certifications to be a firefighter. He's now appealing that order, claiming the state's investigation was reckless and irresponsible. But there is another claim that caught the attention of 13 Investigates. Delaney says the same allegations that resulted in harsh punishment from the state were first brought to the attention of Muncie's fire chief, and he claims the Muncie Fire Department summarily dismissed the claims as unfounded.
The chief made it clear that he did not believe that there was cheating that went on here. He thought that this stuff was taken out of context. He did not support moving forward with this.
Chris Jeter is Troy Delaney's attorney.
Has Mr. Delaney indicated that the chief directly told him that he was exonerated and he didn't believe these charges?
Yes. Yes. I think it was more of he didn't see supporting evidence in the packet to move forward with this type of proceeding.
The packet he's referring to includes dozens of pages of test questions and answers that Delaney allegedly shared with students, along with incriminating text messages allegedly linking Delaney to the cheating. Whistleblowers provided the packet of information to state and national investigators and to 13 News, but only after the information was first shared with the Muncie Fire Department. Does the leadership at the fire department know that this has been going on?
Yes, they've been informed multiple times. They've had proof of this going on, and it seems that it's always just ignored.
We are looking at all the allegations.
13 Investigates asked Muncie's fire chief about the packet of information back in April. And at that time, Chief Robert Meade told 13 News his department was conducting its own investigation.
We are investigating this as well, yes.
But 5 months later, the Muncie Fire Department has no investigation report to share with 13 News. We've asked for the department's findings repeatedly. In June, the fire chief responded, the Muncie Fire Department's findings are consistent with the findings of the state. We asked for the city's actual findings again in July, and the chief responded, we have concluded that the facts as stated in the findings of the state and national investigations speak for themselves. And when we followed up again in August and September to again request the city's investigation report, no response. None. Now, Troy Delaney claims the chief summarily dismissed the cheating claims as unfounded, and yet it's not clear whether Muncie fire officials actually investigated those allegations at all. Do you have any indication that the city of Muncie and the Muncie Fire Department conducted its own thorough investigation on this?
No. I don't have any indication of that.
13 Investigates asked the fire chief if he really did dismiss the cheating claims as unfounded like Troy Delaney claims. Chief Meade has offered no response. Delaney also made another surprising claim in his appeal petition. He says inadequacies of the Muncie Fire Department resulted in having lost multiple family members in tragic incidents. We've asked both Delaney and his attorney to provide more details, but so far we have not received any additional explanation. We'll keep asking questions and get you answers as soon as we can. I'm Bob Siegel, 13 Investigates.
A Muncie firefighter says he's been in hiding for more than a year now, ever since he's been accused of organizing a cheating scheme inside the Muncie Fire Department. Well, now that firefighter is speaking out for the very first time as he tries to save his career. Our 13 Investigates reporter Bob Siegel first broke this story last year. And Bob, now the case has really shifted from the firehouse to a courtroom.
That's right. And you know, Jenny, I've been trying to speak with Muncie Fire Captain Troy Delaney for nearly 16 months. You might recall state regulators revoked all of Delaney's professional certifications because they say he orchestrated a cheating scheme to help Muncie firefighters and EMTs pass their exams. Delaney says that is not true. A few days ago, we finally met inside a hearing room where the firefighter told his side of the story to a judge.
All I ever wanted to be was a Muncie firefighter. I didn't want to be a firefighter anywhere else.
Troy Delaney on the witness stand, trying to save his 20-year career as a Muncie firefighter and EMT. At issue, did the fire captain help new recruits cheat on their certification exams by providing actual questions and answers that would be on the tests? One by one, the state called those recruits to testify, and they all told the administrative law judge the same thing.
What did he text you and your classmates?
Test answers and questions from previous tests.
Questions and answers? Test answers and questions that were believed to be from the NREMT that he obtained from other students.
The recruits testified they later got another text message from Delaney just a few hours before their EMT exam. The text read, "You guys owe me," and it instructed the students that at some point after the test, they needed to text Delaney individually with any exam questions and verified answers they could recall. He wrote, "I want to see how much you are willing to invest back into me." That is a direct violation of testing policy, which prompted the state's EMS director and this firefighting board to revoke all of Delaney's certifications. The new firefighters testified their captain abused his position of authority.
He was a captain, and I was in the military for 7 years, and you follow your leader's orders.
You listen to the senior guy, and you don't cause waves.
He is a superior officer. I mean, we were just kind of doing what we were told.
Did you tell these students to report back to you after their exam with test questions?
I did, yes.
Under oath, Delaney acknowledged he did tell students to send him test questions, but the captain said he did not know he was breaking the rules.
No, I wasn't aware.
And he did admit to sending recruits this text, telling the students they owed him the test questions.
Did you tell these students that when you were telling them to send you test questions after their exam that they owed you?
Yes.
What exactly did the captain mean by that? Well, this was his explanation.
You owe the team to pay back forward and give back some of the time. I wanted to make sure they were clear that it's not one and done. Don't pass the National Registry and then just wash your hands of it. See if you can give back to future recruits also.
Delaney testified that several findings from state investigators are not true. He said the dozens of questions he texted students before their exams came from this study book, not from the test questions he harvested from students. And he insists this text message to students, instructing them not to tell anyone he was providing test questions, did not come from him.
I know for a fact I did not send that to the Muncie Fire recruits.
Delaney also had others testify in his defense, including several current and former co-workers who spoke about Delaney's work ethic and character.
Captain Delaney is the best at what he does.
He's very well prepared.
Go-getter kind of personality.
I have not seen an officer more dedicated to the advancement of our personnel.
Delaney's witnesses did not seem to share the state's concern that Delaney pressured students into sending him actual test questions after their exams.
Is it the most ethical thing? Probably not. But, does it happen? Yes.
I believe that there is absolutely no way that you could cheat on that test.
And some testified the allegations against Delaney were politically motivated, a well-planned attack against a hardworking fire captain by co-workers who they say are lazy and did not want to see Delaney promoted to battalion chief.
Captain Delaney represents a change in culture.
They can't beat him. They're scared to death of Troy.
This whole thing's never been about EMTs and training EMTs and everything like that. It's always been about people that didn't want to work for Captain Delaney.
Delaney hopes the administrative law judge will issue a finding that he did not violate state rules and recommend his professional certifications be reinstated so he can go back to work.
I'm fighting to go back to it because I feel like there's more to do. I have my time. I can retire. I don't want that. I want to be impactful. I want to feel impactful in my community.
The administrative law judge will release her findings within 90 days. Then the State Department of Homeland Security and State Firefighting Board decide whether to uphold Delaney's punishment.
So in this case, it's not the judge, Bob, who gets the final decision?
That's right. It's actually the regulators in this situation. Delaney says following through with revoking his certifications essentially ends his career as an EMT and a firefighter and is way too harsh. So for now, he remains on administrative leave with pay while all of this plays out.
Wow, fascinating case. All right, Bob, thanks.
Tonight, a huge win for a Muncie fire captain accused of helping EMTs and firefighters cheat on their exams. A judge says she thinks the state went too far in revoking all of the captain's professional certifications. And the legal decision could result in nearly all of his punishments being overturned. Our senior investigative reporter Bob Siegel explains this ruling and what comes next.
All I ever wanted to be was a Muncie firefighter. I never wanted to be a firefighter anywhere else.
Captain Troy Delaney said he came out of hiding in late June to defend himself against allegations that he orchestrated a cheating scheme inside the Muncie Fire Department. State regulators claim the longtime fire captain pressured EMTs and firefighters to give him questions from their certification exams, and he then shared those questions with other Muncie EMTs and firefighters to help them cheat and pass their tests. Based on the state's investigation, 2 separate state boards revoked all of Delaney's professional certifications, essentially prohibiting Delaney from working as an EMT or firefighter in the state of Indiana. At this June hearing before an administrative law judge, Delaney acknowledged he did collect test questions from his EMT students.
Did you tell these students to report back to you after their exam with test questions?
I did, yes.
And he did admit to sending recruits this text telling the students they owed him the test questions.
Did you tell these students that they owed you?
Yes.
But Delaney also told the judge that cheating allegations were politically motivated and the state's investigation was biased. He said the dozens of questions he texted students before their exams came from this study book, not from the test questions he harvested from students. And several current and former employees told the judge Delaney has a strong work ethic and character.
Captain Delaney is the best at what he does.
He's very well prepared.
Go-getter kind of personality. I have not seen an officer more dedicated to the advancement of our personnel.
The administrative law judge listened to all the testimony and now has released her findings. When it comes to Delaney's status as a firefighter, the administrative law judge reversed the state's previous order to revoke all 26 of his firefighter certifications. The judge said there was insufficient credible evidence presented that Delaney showed examinees questions and answers during the examination he proctored. And the judge said the state board that revoked those certifications overstepped its authority. As far as Delaney's EMT certifications, she found none of Delaney's actions constitutes fraud or material deception. But the judge determined even though Delaney may have had good intentions, his conduct was immoral because by asking for specific questions and answers to actual examination questions, Delaney crossed the line into conduct that is inconsistent with what is right and honest. That violation of state law is eligible for punishment, but the judge said the state's decision to revoke all his EMT certifications for 7 years, the harshest penalty allowed, exceeds the gravity of Delaney's actions. Instead, she modified the punishment to include revoking Delaney's instructor certificate for only 2 years, not 7. The rest of his EMT certificates would be suspended, not revoked, only through the end of 2024, and the fire captain would be placed on 5 years of probation. It means Delaney could soon get exactly what he wants, finally returning to work as both a firefighter and EMT. Muncie's fire chief tells 13 News that's something that is still yet to be decided.
I'm fighting to go back to it because I feel like there's more to do. I want to feel impactful in my community.
Delaney has been on paid leave for the past 16 months since the state launched its original investigation. Neither Delaney nor his attorney say they're ready to speak just yet on the decisions here by the administrative law judge. The decisions, the orders, and the recommendations, Scott, none of it is binding.
So what happens next?
Well, the next step is that the case is going to go back to the state boards that originally revoked Delaney's licenses to see if they're going to accept these recommendations or stick with their original punishments that they instituted. Both Delaney and the state have 15 days to appeal.
All right, we know you'll be following it for us. Bob Siegel with 13 Investigates.